Hello again, everyone. Ambassador Terry here, and it's First Fridays with Ambassador Terry and friends. And yes, I've got another friend here and a colleague, Lucie Newcomb. Lucie, this is going to be fun.
Yeah, let's go.
I can't wait. Now, we're talking about globalist conventions today, the Newcomb Global Group. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're doing all over the world, which is really ties in to our discussion today.
Well, thank you, Terry. As you know, we talked about focusing on global leadership because global conventions is hopefully what we're going to do next year. And if there's a chance to plug that later, I certainly will. But I think you were so wise to focus on global leadership today because it's such a far-reaching topic and yet kind of pervasive right now, given, if nothing else, the numerous amount of elections going on, people's responses to those elections, and the systems that will support us and the systems that are going away and how we're going to manage that and what leadership looks like in that kind of scenario. A little different than the normal executive corner office kind of leadership.
Yeah, yeah. Now, you travel the world and do consulting and those kinds of things. What are some of the kind of things that you do for the audience here?
Thank you. We specialize in two primary areas. We are an advisory company, an advisory services company, and a training company. And so I actually see our primary core goal is global business development. And what I realized at one point was that what it took to get a company to move overseas and extend their brand and revenue streams, et cetera, was really different from what it took to lead once they got there. Walmart found that out, unfortunately, a long time ago in Germany when they tried to impose, and they aren't the only ones, they tried to impose American management on a local market. So, we've learned some things along the way. They had to close, and I believe they've reopened since. So we've learned some things along the way, Terry, about, the how, the what we know, right? We're looking for global brands, global revenue streams, hopefully global customer service, although that could be a big reach. That's the whole idea, but the how can trip us up sometimes. And that can involve anything from cultural variances. I once worked on a project that very long ago, I started my career at the Red Cross, and we got a grant to teach the Hmong population, an East Asian population that
Sure.
had immigrated to our area, CPR, but they were not allowed to touch a body lying prone on the ground, even though it was a live person. Obviously being a model for CPR, they were not allowed to touch that. So that grant was kind of problematic because we didn't do our homework, right? We didn't know we were supposed to. So now there are, of course, many more complex global problems. There was a time when, in terms of what we do, one of our primary work products is a global expansion, market entry kind of plan, what you should know about this market if you're thinking about it. And the nuances tend to be usually cultural, like I just mentioned. Now with geopolitics, we have a whole other, 31 flavors at Baskin and Robbins to organize. It used to be that when I did a plan for a standard, I usually recommend looking at 3 markets unless someone's really dead set on one. Geopolitics would be maybe half a paragraph or maybe half a page at the most. Now geopolitics can be up to 20 pages, no sweat, right? Because we know about the problem areas of the world. At the risk of sounding callous, those can be business opportunities. And I like to think of them in my, bleeding heart kind of way as also opportunities to serve. People in the Ukraine probably really could use some products. I don't know what they are because I don't study that market, but I think there's all kinds of opportunities for many different aspects of a project like that. So by the way, our primary markets are emerging markets, which also fall into that category of being a little more challenging and a little more exciting.
Delightful. Delightful. I hope you're liking this, ladies and gentlemen, because this is an amazing
Oh,
discussion.
thank you.
Globalist conventions. Lucie and I have, on many occasions, talked about leadership today and the bumps and bruises that leadership is getting for leaders in their own company, in their own country. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
everything's shifting. Everything shifts when you got one of these in your hand. You know,
True.
everything is
Mine's looking
live
at
and
you, so I won't
it's
pick it up.
global and it's instant. And kind of I'm an old guy, so I could say this. In the old days, you know, before cell phones and those kinds of things, somebody could say something that wasn't real smart, and it probably wouldn't go anywhere because there was no way to reproduce it. And then when it was, most times when it was entered in a lawsuit or anything like that, it was hearsay evidence. So you got away with a lot of that kind of stuff. And nowadays you can't because you got 25 people putting it live on Facebook as you're saying it, you
Right.
know. And um, the the opportunity, unless you know, I don't want to talk too much about U.S. politics, the opportunity to look in a camera lens and be a leader of a company and lie through your teeth
Oh, yeah.
is not smart business anymore. You know, people out there, they're savvy. You know, everybody that's born in this century, um, they were born with a cell phone in their hands. So they are well connected. They usually belong to larger groups that talk to each other. And there's always fact checkers in it. There's fact checkers everywhere. And that's a good thing to me. I get excited
I
about that.
agree. I was going to say, I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, you know, AI is new. That doesn't mean it's bad. Doesn't necessarily mean I think it's good. I think it's very good. And I think in what I've been reading, and I completely agree with it, the next 5 years, the internet, the world is going to be a whole different place
Mm,
because of AI. Okay. And, you know, it's not a lot different than the naysayers in a lot of different things. You know, I use this a lot, but, you know, back at the turn of the century, 120 years ago, when Ford's automobiles were first coming out, the naysayers say those things will blow up, they'll kill people,
mm,
you know, they're no good.
mhm.
Horse and buggy, you know, good old horse and a buggy that'll get you anywhere or climb a tree if it has to, blah, 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 blah. Well, there's no such thing as livery stables anymore in metropolitan areas. Unless, and it's not even a livery stable, because a livery stable, ladies and gentlemen, used to make horseshoes and do all that other kind of stuff. It wasn't a place where a horse barn or something like that was completely different. So, you know, horse barns and those kinds of places and at equestrian platforms and things like that, that's a little bit different story, you know, but it's gone and it'll
Right.
never come back. You know, climate change. I'm all over the internet doing talks on climate change.
Right.
Well, the climate's going to change us as human beings. It's not going to change this planet. This planet's going to keep going. You know, I hate to be a part of such a species that's so intelligent that can do such marvelous things can go by the way of the dinosaurs. I don't think we're that arrogant. I think
I
and
hope
I
not.
believe that the young folks today that are coming up, they don't trust that. And it's very easy for them not to trust it because they see it on social media, on news, on television with mom and dad, all those kinds of things. All these people lying out their teeth, they don't trust them, period. You know, I was a child of the 60s. I didn't trust anybody over 30 for a long time. Then I was 30 and I had to rethink that. Now I was 40
I
and
grew up
50.
in Berkeley in the 60s, so I'm with you
Yeah, yeah, right. And
completely.
and that all rolls into, ladies and gentlemen, what we're talking about today, because there's certain conventions, there's certain basic, I hate to use principles, but it's good here, principles that allow the basics of human design, human belief, human
Mm,
operations to interconnect with each other.
excuse me.
You know,
So,
we're all born with an already established personality, and as we age, we become a witness to various stimuli in the world, and how we will act and react to it. You know, it's our choice. You have you have a choice up until you become an adult of, well, they made me think this way, or I had to do it that way, or my mom and dad would beat me, or whatever. When you became an adult, ladies and gentlemen, it is your choice. There is no other. Okay.
That's such a good point that you make, because I often talk about leadership as a choice.
Yeah.
It's definitely always a choice. Often the gradient is very steep. Right now, I'd say the leadership gradient is pretty steep. How do you be a good leader when the ground is falling beneath you and systems are falling down, and you can see the prospect of systems falling down? And you're like, leadership, I'm just trying to stand still. But yet, we have a concept, I know you know this as well, in leadership called fostering the emergent. What is trying to be born now in the middle of all this chaos? What is trying to come forward in my own personal space, in my own world, in the world? And how can I be an effective leader to shepherd that? Maybe not pour concrete everywhere so people have a place to stand, because I think that's kind of where the chaos you can already feel is kind of got a lot of people on edge, right? So leadership's going to look really different. And I would say I'm not terribly happy about some of the things I'm looking at as perspective changes. But I do think, in addition to a more vibrant prayer life, I think that there'll be an opportunity to develop new leadership capacities that I didn't even think were necessary and maybe took for granted, or, they just were not part of my purview on a daily basis. I think, for better or worse, we're going to have a whole lot of new leadership opportunities to cultivate and probably hold on tight to.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, for myself, my leadership style was shaped by a number of great authors growing up in the late last century. You and I witnessed to him, Covey and Zig Ziglar. I just love that guy. Oh God,
Yeah, it's pretty great.
he was just so fun. And he would sit here in front of a camera or across a coffee table and be the exact same person. Just a terrific fellow. He was completely into his own. And that shaped a lot about who I am today, because I never bought into the norm. You should be doing this, you should be doing that, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. Well, I never bought into that. Well, now I can call it meditation. Back in the day, I would say I'd just go deep somewhere. I would go take off camping for a weekend or whatever I was going to do and really think it through. Well, now I just sit down, close my eyes, and I just go deep right where I am. And whatever I'm searching, well, presence is the point where manifestation becomes action. If you
Right.
let go of everything you've learned and are afraid to have happen again in the past, and you don't reach out to the ego and the fear of the future, you don't got the present. And when you have the present, whatever you're looking for will manifest itself. Manifest is to become light, or bring to the light, or bring to the front of what you're thinking on.
Mhm.
And whenever I've done that, I came to the right decision for myself. Now, was it successful every time? Oh, no. But every time it was a great learning experience. And Lucie, it's amazing. 50, 60 years later, I have an opportunity to help someone based on that situation such a long time ago, and how I came about making that decision. And a lot of times, and Lucie, you probably reflect this too, a lot of times I feel like I'm making the right decision based on the information I have at that moment. And
Right.
it may be incomplete. And then when I find out that it was incomplete, I can make a change. I can change what I'm doing. It's my choice. Okay. There's no good choices, no bad choices, simply choices, and we get to change them. Right?
Right.
What do you think about
Maya
that?
Angelou said that. You must remember her too. Maya Angelou said that when you know better, you do better. It's pretty simple.
Ah,
And
absolutely.
Oprah quotes that often. And you know, there's an awful lot of wisdom in that phrase, no matter if it's television perfect or not. I think it's valuable advice.
Yes, yes. On point. On point. You brought up a great example a number of years ago when Walmart expanded expanded overseas, thinking that they're going to make another American Walmart, and tough lessons, but they were
Mhm.
lessons, you know,
And expensive ones too.
expensive ones. Yeah. Fortunately for them, they could recoup the losses pretty quickly. And they've made the same decisions here in the US. Walmarts have closed in different places over the last 3 or 4 decades because they were not smart decisions. The target market migrated or whatever, and they closed the place down. It's
Right.
a smart business decision. And the concept of the super Walmart was another one of those livery stable moments. Like, how dare you make this massive warehouse look like a store? How do you expect people to come into a big place like that? Well, they sure come, and lots of them. Costco, brilliant marketing plan with the Costco concept. So there's a lot out there that you get your bump and bruises. The key to you leaders that are searching, by the way, don't hesitate to reach out to us, Lucie
Yeah.
at Newcomb Global Group, and myself, Terry Earthwind Nichols. We're really easy to Google. So reach out, and I'm gonna leave your
My
comments
mother's
here.
listening. You have to be careful about phrases like that. My mother's listening. Easy to reach out. Yeah, okay. Sorry, I had to give it a go.
Sorry, Bob. But Google us and reach out. You can leave comments here. We'll be watching for them. And you know, a lot of times when you reach out to somebody, it's your intuition that's reaching out. It's
Mm,
not a perfect question, though that you might ask the perfect question in your mind. There's something in your intuition that not only wants to know an answer, they want to know your answer, you know. And the chief executives I mentor, they come to me, they already know the answers, and they know the answers. What they want is somebody to talk it through how that answer is going to look when the action begins. Because success begins at the point of go, not before.
mhm.
Okay. What do you think about that, Lucie?
Well, I think, thanks for asking. This comment that you just made and the horseshoe example that you gave, the horseshoe manufacturing, they start to highlight or point to the highlight between the difference between management and leadership. And I know you and I have talked about this plenty of times, where management is really about managing tasks, creating systems, operationally functional and efficient, whereas leadership, really is about leading people. And we talked about Grace Hopper, you'll remember before, whose comment was, you manage things and you lead people.
Mhm.
And so part of the evolution, I sort of see what you're talking about, kind of like a spectrum, and that we started out a lot in management, good old Frederick Taylor, scientific management. And the whole thing was about the doing of it, right? And it was about the skill of the doing. And now we have evolved, if people want to, right? We still need plenty of skilled people who are doing. There's no question about that. But if you want to, you can take it further and develop yourself, develop your capacities. Ambiguity is something we really as leaders have to understand now, and hopefully help other people work with us in those really, especially in tech, we have that a lot. Those really difficult situations. How can we build capacities for being more comfortable with ambiguity? And actually, there's a number of opportunities that come with that versus just kind of resisting it and getting it through on a task by task basis. So that's where I think what you pointed out, we started out in the sort of management skill stuff that we still need. But a lot of people tend to confuse, especially at the upper echelons, executive management and leadership. I come from the place, leadership is obviously interdisciplinary in a wide range. I come from the place that, unlike piano, everybody can be a leader pretty much. You have to decide. Some people have more innate gifts, of course, like playing the piano, but you have to be willing and committed to develop the capacities. And like I said before, it can be a pretty steep gradient. I think we're going into a period where I think a lot of our expectations will, excuse me, diminish, but the climb will be steep, I think. It's going to be at times in certain, specific cases. How do I just survive and get the heck out of here or get this done, or, very transactional oriented. And we still, as leaders, have the opportunity to, how can we make this the capacity building moment? I mean, not everything is a capacity building moment, right? You choose your butter at the store and you're, finished in claw, as the South Africans say. I mean, it doesn't have to be a capacity building moment, how to buy butter, but there are plenty of other things that could have come along the way. So, we're going to have to really seek depth if we want that. And I think humans do actually want that. So what do you think about that?
Yeah. On point. There's another way. Back in the 80s, there was a great book called Managed by Walking Around. And management while walking around is as valid today, ladies and gentlemen, as it was back in the 1980s. And here's why. You can get in front of a video camera as the chief executive officer of your international company, or maybe you've got a couple of companies here in the States or whatever. And you get in front of the camera, and through live feed at the other end, you get some staff members, maybe some senior staff. That's common. But, we're going into Christmas. We're going into the holiday season in many different religions. And if I just did a 2-Minute Tuesday live on this, where you cut a video and or you get on and you go one-on-one and you manage by walking around, and you build that level of trust that a young person in your company feels comfortable about asking you a really serious question that their immediate bosses did not want to answer. Right. And if it's valid enough for that person to go on tape, to go on a live presentation with the number one person in the country, then you have to respect that person enough to give them an honest answer. Or at least that's a fabulous question. I want to research it and I want to bring it back to you, and we'll do it here on camera so we can do it sort of face to face. Is that all right, Jeremy? Boom. You know what you just did to every person in your company? Wow, Terry's cool. He's going to do that. Now, you must do it. You must research it and you must do it. But do it. I, as the chief executive officer of my company, I'm the chairman actually, and I have a different job to do than the contract people come into the office and clean it. We just do different work, and there's different pay scales and better, but we have our jobs. I have been witness to, I don't know how many people who do what would be considered mediocre or no-brainer jobs or whatever, and they are the happiest people on earth because of two things. They get to do what they want, they love to do, they help people from their heart, and they don't have all of that busy stuff that the board of directors have because they don't want it. They're in a position that their life is what it is. They have a good family, they have regular money coming in, stuff like that. They're not driven by doubling the size of their house and doing all that kind of stuff. They're driven by being happy, come to work happy, come home happy. And so that they can deal with day-to-day thing. Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Chief executives get to do the same thing. It takes a while to get to chief executive. And once we get here, it's a pretty cool place. Just like politics, the higher you go up in politics, the higher you go up in business in the ladder of responsibility, the more people want your job. And you got to be able to protect that. But there's an authentic way to protect it versus a powerful, I'm the boss, you're going to do it my way type of concept. What do you think about that, Lucie?
Tech is, I work mostly in tech and services, and we're business to business. So I was going to say tech is kind of another planet, and Silicon Valley is kind of another planet. And most of us here, I mean, broad generalization, of course, most of us here feel like the how does not really matter. I just want results. I just want this. Others, especially more on the manufacturing side, tend to be more time and motion. You have to have your fanny in the seat this many hours, blah, blah. We have a big drama here now. I'm sure you've heard about it, about return to office, where folks who had, moved away. I couldn't move back to my desired town because everybody had left the valley and gone to the beach, which is what I was trying to do at the same time. It did not work out. So those things, I think, are emblematic of what you're talking about. How does the how work? An author that has kind of, I haven't heard from lately, called Nilofer Merchant. She's on the Thinkers 350 thing. I think you are too. Talks about the air sandwich in the middle of a company, which is how she refers to middle management. And she's speaking now, of course, of large corporations. How do we deal with the air sandwich? Well, the air sandwich kind of, their job, generically speaking, of course, not specifically speaking, is kind of to block the how, right? I mean, let's make it as bureaucratic and difficult as possible to get stuff done. And so that's why a lot of us are in entrepreneurship roles out here. I think we probably are, I don't know the numbers, but there are really, large tech companies, then there are startups, and as entrepreneurs, service provider types, we're what's called a cluster economy, because it's so challenging to get the how piece done. The why can vary a little bit. One of the challenging things here that I had the biggest trouble with when I first got here 25 years ago, I think. 25, was the idea that speed is more important than quality. And it absolutely is here. And you have to be willing to embrace that here, which was really hard for me because I have exacting. I've loosened up actually quite a lot, but in general, I have exacting quality standards, not of the people in my life or my social stuff, no. But, a lot of the products that we work with in tech and so forth, they have to be rigorous. The standards have to be rigorous. And so, sometimes you'll see somebody pushing for an IPO quickly and this has to get done. And I'm not casting any aspersions, but I'll make an insinuation. One company in particular, early days now, 20, 30 years ago, came up with this idea of patches, that they would put out something flawed and something would have a patch on it, and somehow that would be market acceptable. Well, I don't know any other industry. I mean, the airline industry better never as heck just throw a patch on something. That's kind of what insinuations are now about particular leaders in the industry. So, I think we're still kind of juggling the speed versus quality thing. Quality has come up quite a bit. I think AI is also going to be a driver and kind of an apparent dichotomy. Maybe it will be the bridge. We'll have to see how that goes. But it's interesting to see how the how goes, because for me, I've had to actually learn to be, this will be hilarious to the people who know me, a lot more mellow than I used to be. I actually am, but not. So because, you're in process all the time. In Silicon Valley and tech, I think in general, you socialize almost everything. Things are in groups a lot. And, somebody asked me my first day at Cisco 20 years ago or so, what's it like? And I said, do you remember when you sat in class and someone raised their hand and they were always the one raising their hand first? And, this person said, yes. I said, well, it's like working in an entire company of those people. So you have to learn, the social skills to make that work, to let your ideas be heard. I often talk about leading from the back of the room, letting other people come forward and not always, shutting out my opinion. So all those dimensions and skills and kind of reading the room, all those things I think will continue to be nuanced and probably more so as we go forward.
Yeah. Powerful stuff. Powerful stuff. As we wrap up this conversation, my friend, what are some of the key points of what we talked about today really resonate with you?
Well, the one that kind of hit in the back, that I feel it's important to bring forward now, I hope that's okay with you, it's slightly different than what you asked for, is it's really important to remember that we have choices. And it's really hard sometimes to see that we have choices. And that leadership, just stepping forward in the middle of what seems impossible, that is a leadership choice. And every one of those makes the next one easier. Even if it doesn't work out, even if it was a terrible choice, there's a muscle that's being built there. And I think this is a time, as I said earlier, where we are going to be challenged, if not impelled, to create new leadership dimensions and capacities.
Well done. Well put. You know, for me, I'm at my best in a conversation. You know, some of my best advice has come from a general conversation. So, you know, by the way, you might want to think about this, you know, and the management by walking around, ladies and gentlemen, there's a valid point there because if you can, as a chief executive or your division, as a division chief or whatever, the mama or the papa of the company, whatever you want to do, cut a video that can be attached to your broadcast email that goes to every employee, wishing them happy holiday, and that we start the next year on an earth that's full of peace. You know, whatever that is, it comes from here and it's powerful. It is a powerful message of trust. You know, it takes many years to gain trust and an instant to lose it forever. And as I spoke with the cell phones and everything, that's getting easier and easier and easier to lose the trust. But we have a whole new generation of people that are thinking from many angles, many times a day. You know, we spoke of people wanting to force people back to their employees back to work in the office. Well, why don't you let them continue being at home and bring in a revenue stream that requires being in an office space in team concept, fill the office because that's what you're trying to do, justify the lease space.
Right.
Okay, the cost per square foot to your stakeholders and shareholders. Be smart about it. Make money with it. Don't adjust it. You know, bring in new revenue streams. You have a lot of people in your company, ladies and gentlemen, that can create the revenue stream that'll fill the offices again with something brand new. Brand new, people getting energized. They want to take ownership. They want to be part of that growth. You'd be surprised how the average person's motivation shifts when they see something that they may enjoy and they get to be one of the first people to do it. People really get off on that. It's not necessarily egotistic as much as it is self-fulfillment. My good friend, thank you so much for doing First Friday with me today. Again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching all these different months and leave your comments. And so thank you for another great thing. Thank you again, Lucie, for doing this with me. And happy holidays, everyone. We'll see you next month.
Thank you so much, Terry. Leadership is a contact
today.
sport.
Let's talk thought leadership today. Let's talk thought leadership today.